friends. Happy Wednesday to you. I hope that you've been having a great day. For those of you who I caught earlier on Twitter, I hope that you love the tweet chat as much as I did. I know Carlos is joining us on YouTube Live, and I had a pleasure of I guess tweeting Carlos earlier today. Hello, Sadiq. I see you on YouTube Live as well. See a lot of our friends today. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to In the Loop. Of course, I'm here with that one and only Greg Nibbler, which I'm so excited to hear because I know Greg was out of town recently, we know, and I'm excited to hear and see some of the images that he brought back, and of course, his experience working with the team at Microsoft and all that value that he brought. And of course, I'm here to keep you on up on all things business, finance, and boy, did we have a big day today. And of course, my friends, you know that you are part of today's conversation. So do me a favor, jump in, let me know where you're joining us from, let me know what part of the country you're in, how you're feeling today, because we would love to hear from you. So welcome to the show. I'm Winnie Sun, longtime financial pro, CNBC council member, Forbes contributor, and host of Level Up, which also can be found on NASDAQ and a few other platforms. And we are here to welcome you back to the show. Greg, how are you feeling? Are you breathing yet? Like, has it settled? Are you jet lagged? How are you doing?
I think the jet lag is finally gone. That is real, though. That took about 2 days. I think I slept like 24 hours over the weekend. Once I got back, I was just so tired, but feeling good now, refreshed, really happy to be back. And it's going to be back here with the show. I was bummed I had to take the 2 weeks off, but you know, it's really hard with that time difference to make that work from over there. So yeah, I have returned, and it's good to see everybody joining into the chat. It's so much fun talking to everyone. And I love that everybody was tweeting me even while I was gone. And in case you don't know, I'm Greg Nibbler, longtime tech reporter covering all kinds of things. And yes, I just got back from Amsterdam, where I was for about, I think, 8 days, depending on how the time change works. The day you lose a day when you travel there, but for about 8 days working at the International Broadcasting Convention. So I've got a few videos that I kind of put together, some reels that I put together showcasing that. And we'll talk about what that's entailed and some cool things in tech that are happening that I'd like people to know about. And naturally, there's going to be a couple of robots in there. So that's coming up. But yeah, it's just good to be back here and to see you and see everybody joining in.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you back, Greg. And I'm glad that you're bringing us some robot content because it was direly missed the last couple of weeks. And so we're excited to see what you have to see, what you saw, what your projection is, and of course, you know, some of the things that you did at the event. So thank you so much. And of course, I'm going to ask you about your flights and if that global entry thing worked out too, because we want to hear about that.
Please do.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm going to bring it real, Greg. We got to talk about the market because unfortunately, it's not as happy as our show is today. The market, unfortunately, was a triple down day. The Dow closed down 522 points today. The Nasdaq down 204, and the S&P down 66, which may have come as a surprise for those of you, if you're sort of watching the markets earlier today. You might be like, Winnie, are you sure those numbers are right? Because earlier today, the Dow was actually up more than 314 points. But sure enough, it came down. And in fact, I sort of projected it earlier today, not only because we did know that the Fed was going to make an announcement. We expected a 3/4 point increase on interest rates. Some people were saying, you know, 1 full percent. I didn't think that would happen. And sure enough, we had a 3/4 percentage point increase today. But what really made me sort of stop and think, oh, goodness, this is not good, is because we heard some news, some geopolitical news coming out of Russia. Putin is making discussions of making a mobilization, bringing, you know, the projection of bringing about 300,000 troops from Russia. In fact, what's really scary today is I saw on Google, they were talking about one of the biggest trends on Google was people in Russia were actually Googling how to break your arm at home. Like it's pretty meek. So you have that geopolitical risk, you know, the threat of nuclear war. I guess Putin had also mentioned that. So all these things having some pressure. I'm not sure how much of it has trickled into the financial markets just yet, but I imagine it'll get deeper as we see more news coming out of Russia. Now, talking about the Fed Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, he did increase interest rates, now 0.75%. Now, as you know, this is actually quite historical for the central bank. In fact, to bring down inflation, which, as you know, is the highest since it's been in the 1980s, well, The game plan now is they're hoping to get interest rates or inflation, I should say, not interest rates, but inflation. They're trying to get inflation down to about the 3% range. But unfortunately, that does mean they have to do quite a bit of rate hikes here. And so officials have now said that they could potentially keep on increasing interest rates now until a point where it's like at 4.6%, perhaps next year in 2023. Now, that means that for younger people who are looking to purchase a home in the market for a new home or, looking to refinance, this is not good news because not only is the cost of borrowing for a new home much more expensive now because interest rates have gone up, but of course, the cost of everything else has gone up. And so, how are people going to be able to afford that new home? And real estate prices, as we know, continue to get higher too. So, yeah, wish I had better news for you on that front, but not likely anytime soon. So, one thing you may have seen me share on Twitter, I have just called it. All right, I'm going to tell you what I think is the new PPP. And what I'm saying about the new PPP is that the three things that need to get resolved here for the financial markets to get better. So I've been hearing a lot of people talk about how they want a new raise, right? They want a bigger raise on their paycheck. They want to retire one day. I just talked to somebody that we just signed this week who, is hoping to retire soon. And everybody is saying, I want my 401k to go back up. I want my retirement savings to go back up. And me too. I certainly feel this way as well. So you might be wondering, what will it take? So I kind of coined this the new PPP. If you follow me on Twitter right before this, you may have seen it. But this is what it is. Number one, prices. The first P is prices, inflation. Inflation needs to go down, right? Number two is Putin, Russia. We need to get that geopolitical risk underway, and that needs to be behind us. Nuclear threats are not good for us here in the United States as well as anywhere else in the world in terms of getting our money to be growing again. And number three, yes, it's still here. We may not want to talk about it, but unfortunately, the stock market does. And so you should all be paying attention to this as well. And that is the pandemic. So these are the three big P's. Until these three things are resolved, I can tell you that you can expect more volatility in the financial markets and certainly more uncertainty, which means that one good day doesn't make a market and one bad day doesn't end and make things a lot better as well. So a lot of things to keep in mind as you are watching the financial markets. So give you an idea of some of the CEOs and what they're talking about. FedEx's CEO is also saying that they're seeing a weakened global shipping demand, worldwide recession concerns. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon also says that we should be prepared for the worst here in the United States. He just, I guess he spoke in front of Congress recently. So a lot of negative news coming out, but it is what it is. The U.S. mortgage interest rates as of this week are now at 6.25%, now the highest level since October 2008. And yeah, it just seems like people are just very, very concerned about the financial markets overall. Now, Lori Konich of CNBC, she's a good friend of mine at CNBC, she shared an online financial work survey that I also wanted to put on your radar. Now, recently in July, they included a survey of about 1,000 employees, adults, and about 600 HR directors and leaders, and talking about inflation and about like how people are saving, how people are making financial decisions. And I thought it was really interesting because the studies actually show that 62% of workers who were surveyed have said that they are now reducing savings on both their short and long term savings goals. So, about a third of those who were surveyed said they have cut how much they're now contributing to their 401k. So this is, I think, a bigger problem here because if people aren't contributing enough into their 401k, which we know historically is the case anyway, people usually don't save enough in their 401ks. And now those who are saving into their 401ks are reducing the amount that they're putting aside. Well, what happens later on after the three Ps are behind us? And people are actually thinking about this and what are they going to do when they need the money in the future? So I think this is sort of a much bigger problem. And I wanted to put it on your radar because I think it's really important as we are thoughtful about our money and how we make great smart moves for ourselves and we plan ahead, we want to sort of follow these trends. And some of this news might not be in just really clearly defined, bullet points, but we got to sort of piece this puzzle together so that we can make these smart financial decisions out for ourselves. So, there's more to share, but I know that that's a lot already. So I want to segue over to Greg because Greg, I want to save enough time to hear about your journeys and your adventures. But yeah, I wish Greg, I was giving you better news as you came back to the
It's like
States.
it's like you said, it is what it is. I like that the PPP, aspect. I
PPP,
mean,
new
there's
PPP.
nothing you can do. These are the realities of what's going on. So
Mhm.
at least it's good to be informed about it and understand it a little bit more. And that definitely helped me out a lot to understand why things are going that way and where it's going. So yeah, to segue though into what I was doing. So something different. So I've been gone. I went to Amsterdam
Okay.
in the Netherlands. I was hired by Microsoft to be one of the video hosts of their booth at a convention called IBC, which is the International Broadcasting Convention. And basically what that is a giant convention. Like, I don't even know how many exhibitors, hundreds at least, if not
Wow.
thousands, just booths upon booths in this giant convention center there, showcasing essentially every aspect of broadcasting technology, and a lot of it being like the future of broadcasting. So I put together a few little videos. They're real, so they were on Instagram. So sorry if they're straight up and down, but this is kind of showing a little bit of the floor. And as you walk around, every booth is showing what they have is the cutting edge. So like there's a fancy light, outdoor light, rain box right there. They're showing what a broadcasting booth could look like, and a moving set with moving cameras. I really found these interesting. These are these giant crane cameras, and they had a couple of them there. Like, you think that one's big, and then they show the other one that's even bigger. So it's just, all this stuff is very, very expensive. These are for very professional broadcasts, but it's really cool to see what's coming out and just what it's like. So this is just kind of a little bit of an example of what it's like there on the show floor. So for my part of it, working for Microsoft, I can't say everything that they were doing there because some of it's going to be coming out at another time. There's some
Okay.
press releases. So at some point, I'll be able to talk about that. I'll just say this. It's really, really cool what they're doing.
Looks really cool.
Yeah, it's really going to be cool. And I'll be talking about it here on the Loop when it happens. But my job really was to interview all kinds of heads of companies and different tech entrepreneurs and people that are in the broadcasting space working with Microsoft. And it was probably 30 or 40 people that I talked to over the few days, at least. And so much fun. Such a great time. I love doing that. It was interesting being back on a convention floor. I haven't been to one since really January of 2020
Wow.
for CES. So that was kind of a unique experience in itself, being around that many people in a big convention. But still very fascinating stuff. Just seeing what it all is. I get really excited about that. So seeing all the broadcast tech.
Okay.
If anybody has questions, I can try to answer.
I have questions, Greg. I
Yes,
have lots of
please.
questions. Okay. The one thing I want to know right off the back is obviously 30 to 40 interviews, right? I know
Yep.
you can't tell us too much on the Microsoft front, but can you tell me this? What interview like really stuck to you? Like what really stood out? What was something that someone said that really stood out in your mind?
I think there was a general theme, and this isn't giving away too much, a general theme of where the future of broadcasting and basically interaction with viewers is going. Because we've seen, this big push for live streaming, and everything was about live streaming. There wasn't a single booth that didn't have live streaming as part of what they were talking about. Not that I saw anyway.
Okay.
So that really is the future. It was how that's getting done, but then it's the way they're integrating all of these different technologies into a viewer experience. So to where you're going to be able to change, you could potentially change cameras, or the way you watch something, especially live events, is over the next couple of years, at least, and maybe even sooner than that, it's going to change and evolve. And I feel like we're really on the precipice of something that's going to change the media landscape, change the broadcasting landscape of how content is produced, and then how it can be streamlined, but also how it's going to be so much more diverse what you get to do with the content that you're watching, and the way you interact with shows or live events or your sports team or whatever it is that you're into. Really neat stuff is on the way.
That's cool. So like
Yeah,
I'm kind of like I'm trying to decode Greg for all of you who
yeah.
are watching today. So I'm gonna sort of let me know, like blink if I'm right, but I'm
Okay.
thinking what Greg is sort of telling us is like he's like it's more diverse. I got that. I love that, right? But he also said I'm thinking it's gonna be more interactive. I think that the
Yes.
viewer will be able to move things around, maybe see like statistic and data. Like I just feel like it'll be more interactive like TV.
That's exactly it. Thank you for interpreting that for me. I get in the weeds a little bit. Yeah, more interactive. So even if you think about something like, and this is kind of a general topic that kind of came over the conversations, like say Stranger Things.
Okay.
Stranger Things, obviously, we all know what Stranger Things is.
Huge
So many
TV
people
show.
watch it.
Mhm.
Huge. Well, we'll use this for an example, and this isn't an exact thing. I don't have any inside info on Stranger Things, but for an example,
Mhm.
going down the road, it could be something where you could pull up somebody else's viewpoint. Say you're watching it and you want to be like, I want to see it from this person's viewpoint.
That would
You
be
know,
so cool. Like a
right? You could
different
do
character's viewpoint, right?
Yeah, you could do all those different things and almost make it your own show that you're watching, be your own director of what you're watching. Like that's one kind of possibility. So you're watching it, say, on your laptop or phone, or I guess your television too. You'd be like, oh, I want to see it from this angle, this angle, this angle, or a live sports broadcast. Say you're watching the Super Bowl and you want to see it from different angles, or even incorporating all kinds of different, because you can have so many different phones going or cameras going. You could have all those options available for you. Or you're watching, say, the Super Bowl and you see somebody pop up on the screen, like the quarterback's there, and you want to see more about the quarterback. Well, you could touch the quarterback and potentially have all kinds of details pop up about that person, be it stats, whatever it is. It's just really giving a lot of power to us, to the people who are watching things, and changing up how it's going to work. And I know it's kind of circumspect because a lot of it's not out yet, but this is what they were talking about there with the international broadcasting, like saying this is the future, this is what's happening, this is where it's going. Really, really exciting stuff. And
That is exciting. And
yeah,
one thing I'm sure, Greg, you saw this already, but just think about the power of then this sort of visual content, right? So, like for example, like you're watching us right now, and you could push on Greg's shirt on the screen, and you could find out where you could buy Greg's shirt, right?
yes,
And so. Like
Nordstrom, that's right.
so like product placement, but it's so interesting is like sort of that custom experience where we want knowledge, we want more information. And now it'll be interesting to be like behind the camera, right, Greg? Like how
Yeah,
like producing different shows in different angles. I'm guessing that
right.
production just needs to be more efficient. There just needs to be more camera angles and probably multiple teams to run multiple angles too. It'll be interesting.
That Yeah, there's definitely part of that, but also it's the use of artificial intelligence and
Mhm.
just all of that mass data in the cloud that they can process. It was mind-boggling how they were able to do some of these things just all online, all live streaming it, and then having AI kind of pick out like, here's this. The person at the end who is watching the show can pick what they want, and really, it's very exciting. It's very exciting to see what's going to be happening. And then there's a whole aspect of like virtual reality and all that too.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear when you're able to reveal everything. I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
There's the one particular thing, it's at some point I'll be able to talk about it. It's going to be a big announcement that's coming.
Okay, so
That's all I can say.
I have questions, Greg. I have lots of questions.
Yes,
So
please.
tell me, I saw the picture, I saw the footage, I've obviously we follow each other on Twitter. I saw
Mhm.
some of the footage that you shared on Instagram and whatnot. I noticed that the convention center, there were people, but it wasn't like overly crowded. Now, do you feel that that's a result of the pandemic, or is this conference typically just, little thin, more thinly attended because it's such a high level industry? Maybe it's just, mostly executives, or is it because of the pandemic?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I know. So this was my first time at IBC in particular, but I know they haven't done one since 2019, all because of the pandemic. So this is the first time a lot of them, the first time this one's been back. My biggest comparison I can do is to the Consumer Electronics Show, because that's one
Mhm.
that I've been to for so many
That
times.
one's huge to CES.
Huge. I would say, more people at CES. CES can get
Definitely.
overwhelming, almost claustrophobic
Yes.
sometimes in the aisles. This was not as bad. And I think it could be a reflection partly of the pandemic and people still being a little bit hesitant to go. Also, I think you got a point there that this is a really specific industry, whereas CES covers a lot of different things. So there's almost an avenue for any kind of technology you'd be into. This is really hyper focused on broadcasting, which is still a lot of different things that go in it. I mean, you could have cameras, sound, editing, a lot of different things that go into that, but it's not really the general public as much, or there's not as many different things. So I think it's probably a combo of both. I mean, as far as safety measures, it was spread out. There's hand sanitizer, but it seemed to be pretty safe. I mean, thankfully, came back without catching COVID, so I haven't heard of anybody. So, and the Netherlands in general seems to have done at least as far as I can tell, a pretty good job with it. But yeah, I think it's a little combo of both.
Get any fun swag back?
I got a couple of pieces of swag. I got a basketball that was gifted. Otherwise, not as much. I mean, I would have liked one of those cameras, but I think they were like $100,000. So they didn't give me one.
Come back with a camera, Greg.
I know
that was on the list.
It was. They had so many of them. Like they could just give me one.
I know, just boop.
They were so cool though. Watch it. You got to go up and like control them and try out running some of these remote camera systems. It's really fun. Very expensive. So yeah, they didn't give me one. I do have a couple of software subscriptions that are coming to me. That'll be cool. That I think I'm going to be getting.
Next year's contract, Greg, I feel like you need to include, one like little extra like parameter in there and one camera.
Yes. Lesson learned. I didn't do that very well, but it was great. Like the Microsoft team was awesome to work with too. They were such fun people to work with. So really great team. Yeah. No camera though, but otherwise, yeah, it was fantastic. And that was also my first time to Amsterdam. So that was the other aspect of it is, seeing this city. I haven't been to Europe in quite a while. So this was getting back to Europe. Seeing Amsterdam itself. I did have, I've posted a bunch of things on my personal pages just of my trips. I did take one video, kind of put together some videos of the canals. So if you've never been to Amsterdam, there's a lot of canals there. I mean, that's kind of what it's built on.
So
this canal tour was really cool. That you can just kind of get to see the city from a different angle. It's all these very tall buildings and lots of boats, lots of canals,
I feel like you did this in Oregon and now you're doing
it. We don't have quite the canals like this. We've got rivers.
Boats and water.
Yeah, I know. It's not that much different. Actually, the weather was pretty similar to Oregon.
Really? So Vicky is saying playground for Greg. Yes, I agree. Yes. Like that, I agree with you too, Vicky. Vicky's gonna pop a camera in the mail for you.
Thank you.
Sadiq is saying broadcast and TV specific. Yeah, for the conference, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Virtual production is the future, Greg. That's what's from Sadiq as well.
Yeah, it really was. It was just a huge theme, virtual production. Sadiq mentioned, shoot, I forgot to grab a picture to show that. I remember before I went, Sadiq wrote and said, hey, there's a 3D printed bridge in Amsterdam. I did. I went and saw it the first day I was there. I forgot to throw that picture in for you to see.
What?
Yeah, but I got to go see that. It was really cool.
Okay, we're going to get Greg to show it next time, okay? Because we want to see this 3D printed bridge. I want to see this. I want to see this 3D.
I took a little video of it too, and I just totally blanked on putting that into the broadcast. That's my bad. I'll show it for the next show.
Yeah.
I'll get one pulled up. So yeah,
very, very cool.
Really, really a great time. And then, of course, because I talk a lot about robots on this show, and of course, I inevitably ended up running into a robot at the airport on the way back, almost literally running into a robot on the way back. So I got there, I had a little bit of shopping left to do because I wanted to pick up some gifts. And I walk over to this Dutch themed store, which they're all over there in the airport, just to pick up some kind of things. And I didn't even notice. So that's Pepper the robot that we've talked about before here on the show. And
tell me about
dressed up like a little Dutch person. And I was standing there to the left. There was like a stand, and I'm looking at this stand, and all of a sudden the robot just started speaking out of my right and scared the heck out of me. I jumped and yelled and then realized, oh, okay. And you can interact with it. And part of what this one was is a demonstration for COVID safety distances. Because in the Netherlands, they were doing 3 meters. And so it was like, hey, can you do 3 meters? And the robot just talks to you. And It was
This is
kind
so
of,
cool.
yeah, it was pretty
How
interesting.
cute.
Yeah, that was the one little demo. And then you can play trivia and quizzes. And then, of course, it'll try to sell you whatever is in the store. Like, this is my favorite candy. It's on sale right now for blah, blah, which I bought some. But so it worked. But yeah, it was really, really cool actually seeing one of those in the wild being used in an airport for sales, really, is what was going on with that one. So yeah, Pepper the Robot is out there, just dressed up as a Dutch person. So
Okay, did you get to bring one home? That's really cool. I mean, I love this use of robots. I mean, it looks so
yeah,
friendly and like, and how cool to have it at the airport, right? And
yeah,
packing candy and keeping you COVID safe. I mean, that's a great use of a robot.
right. Yeah, it was pretty good. Minus, I didn't notice it, and it scared me. So I did jump. I probably scared somebody else when I jumped, but then it was okay. Then I played the game with it.
That is
But yeah,
amazing.
and the flights, weren't bad. They were pretty good too. So got to go direct there, which was nice. I know you said you might have some questions about the flights.
Yeah. We need to ask so I know that, Greg, before you went, we were talking about global entry. We're talking about how it's almost like 2 years now to get global entry. So the
Yeah.
government's saying instead of getting global entry, try and get pre-check instead. But it's like, so were you successful? Were you able to get your global entry?
Yeah, that was such a good recommendation. So I followed Winnie's advice and I went online and applied for global entry. And global entry is it can speed up how you get through customs coming back into the US. So yeah, I could apply for it, but then normally once you do that, you have to set up an interview, and it's a year, 18 months, 2 years out to get an interview because everybody's short staffed. Which, by the way, the Netherlands is short staffed too. I learned that was one thing at their airport. Their customs was so short staffed, you had to get there 4 hours before your flight.
Whoa.
And some people didn't even make it then. I got lucky and got through.
Wow.
But this is a way to speed it up. And then when you get back to the United States, you do your interview right there and you go through customs. And I was able to get it. So for the next time, it'll be pretty beneficial for coming back in. So thank you for recommending that. I did that immediately. I think after our last show, once you said it, I'm like, oh, got to go do that right now. And it worked.
So Greg, you went to the interview in Portland?
Yeah, you did it. So you get back and, you have to go through normal customs coming back into the US when you're coming from anywhere overseas, just like every country. But you get through, you go through the line, and then there's a specific extra line you go to where it says it's not pre-qualified for global entry. It's there's a term for it. I'm blanking on that, but there's a section.
Yeah, you're approved ahead of time.
Approved. Yeah. It's like pre-qualified or something like that. You just have to go through. It's about like a 20-minute thing where they just ask, a bunch of questions and verify things. They take your fingerprints and you get a picture for your pass. It takes about a half hour once you actually talk to somebody. But yeah, you were able to do it right there. And
that's amazing.
And even the customs agent, they were short-staffed too. But he's like, this may take a little while to get through this line, but it's a lot better than waiting for a year or longer. So might as well stick around and do it. So I did. And I was able to get it.
Well, and you're tired, you're off the plane, you just got to do it. But I know, like, I fly back to LAX, and I will tell you, as someone who, who's utilized global entry, I was lucky to get this before the pandemic, of course. But coming through, like, when you come into LAX, Los Angeles airport, the difference between having global entry and not having global entry, like I got through customs in like 10 minutes versus a good friend of mine flew same flight 2 hours longer. So I was already home, relaxed, and they were just literally getting an Uber at that time. So it's a big deal. So worth it. And by the way, I should mention, because I know it's been a few years and a lot of people haven't taken international flights in the last couple of years because of the pandemic. For those of you who, already are like myself, who have global entry, make sure you jump on and see when this thing comes due, okay? Because global entry, I believe, is only like 4 or 5 years is the duration. And since this pandemic is nearing 3 years, you just want to check, because if it's about to come due, make sure you renew, because otherwise you got to start from scratch. You don't want to do that.
You don't want to do that. That reminds me a couple of other things with that too. With global entry, you automatically get TSA pre-check included in it. So that's, even if you're not flying internationally, flying domestically, TSA pre-check is amazing.
Amazing.
Saves you so much time.
Yes.
I used to look at those lines where people were just getting right through before I had it, being so jealous. Now I get to be one of those people. So it covers that too. The other thing I found out, so my passport's actually getting ready to expire in February. I just hadn't been paying attention. I was fine for traveling, but the government now has a test program. They may have stopped it now until October, a test program to apply for your passport renewal online.
Yeah.
So you don't have to send it in anymore. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And you take a picture, upload it. And so I did that. So I'll have mine coming in the mail without having to, used to have to send it in. I know, at least the last time I did, and
That's
not have a
amazing.
passport. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did see that too. That's amazing. And now, so now you're like leveling up your travel experience.
Yep.
The next thing you need to do, Greg, and for those of you who are watching, I'm a big believer, and I'm a big traveler. So, in addition to global entry, which gets you pre-check, the next thing you should consider is getting clear. Okay, clear is absolutely remarkable. So, clear basically they will use your retina scans or your fingerprints. So you don't even like let's just say hypothetically you forget your driver's license or your passport and you're traveling, right? They can scan your eyes or your fingerprints to verify who you are, and then they literally take you right to the scanners, the security scanners, because basically they verified you based on your, like, your, I guess, your thingies, right? Your very individual scans. And so clear is incredible. And you can pay for clear, which is was sort of reasonable. If you travel a lot, I think it's pretty reasonable. But if you have certain credit cards, like travel credit cards, some of them actually provide free clear for you and your family. And so if you have kids, kids don't have to get clear. As long as the adults have it, they get the benefit of that. Unlike global entry, everybody needs to have it. But yeah, clear. I always say clear global entry is life.
That's great to know. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll put that one on my list for something else to get.
I'll
Yeah.
send you a referral of that for sure.
Please do. Yeah. I will take all of Winnie's travel advice. So everybody out there do the same. But yeah, I mean, it overall just a great trip and really fun learning about everything that's going on over there. So lots of pictures up on my Instagram page. I took so many photos. I did get a new phone right before I left too.
Do
I know there was
tell
debate
us.
on whether I would go with the iPhone 14.
Yes, we want to know.
I
Don't.
went with the Samsung Galaxy S22 Plus. I stuck with the Android for this year.
Sadiq's happy.
The
Sadiq,
camera
you're
is
happy,
great
right?
on it. So far, the camera is really nice on this.
We'll have to compare. So
Yeah.
my iPhone, as Vicky, you probably guessed, my iPhone is on order. It should be here soon,
You
and
got the
then we
14?
will. I got the 14. I got the 14 Pro. So
Nice.
I'm very excited about it. We'll have to figure out a way. You know what we should do, Greg, is we should actually turn on second cameras with our phones.
Yes, I like that
Yeah,
idea. All right.
give
We'll
you a
do a
different
test.
experience.
Did an actual test drive of of it. Multiple angles.
Multiple ways.
Cool. Well, yeah, I've other than that, yeah, for the trip, so much fun. I do have a couple of other things of tech topics just to kind of throw
Do
out there
tell us.
something that I thought was cool that I discovered this week. This is actually a Kickstarter that is very well funded. It's called Yarbo. And, we talk a lot about robots that can help out around the house. And we've seen lawn mowing robots before, that those things have existed for a while. This is like the ultimate lawn mowing robot because it does 3 different things all in one. It not only mows your lawn, it works as a snow blower and a leaf blower, depending on which attachment you put on it. Pretty awesome. I know I say awesome a lot, but this is awesome. So, because I want this thing. So it can work up to, as it's saying there, work up to, I think it's negative 20 some degrees. It can do up to 12 inches of snow. So if you're in an area with a lot of snow, this would be valuable. I want it for the lawn mowing capabilities. 2 hours, it'll work 2 hours on a charge. I mean, it's just kind of a beast of a machine. Yeah, it's got GPS tracking. So you just kind of set up where your yard is, and then it'll figure it out. It's got all kinds of cameras for obstacle avoidance. So it's not going to, run over a kid or anything. And just pretty cool what they've done with it. I think they showed the funding. They wanted $50,000 to get this thing started. They're well over $2 million. It's a little spendy. I think it's $2,600 for the base model, 30 some hundred for the higher one. So still a little pricey for it, but pretty neat, especially, for people who live in areas where there's a lot of snow. I can think this would be a nice addition as they're sitting in there. Yeah. Nice and warm watching that thing work. That's pretty cool. So that's Yarbo is what this thing is called. Pretty Pretty cool. So that's one robot that I was seeing this week, just kind of taking a look at some robotics and some of the cool stuff that's been happening. Now, the other thing I wanted to bring up is we are about to really get into the season for new hardware. So we had Samsung with their event, the iPhone. Clearly, just that happened. The iPhone event was actually the day that I was leaving, so a couple of weeks ago. Now we're getting into the season where everybody's going to be having events. So Tesla's doing one in I think September 30th. They're doing an AI event where they're supposedly going to be unveiling their robot. We'll see how that works. Then you've got later on in October, Microsoft is having a Surface event. Google's going to be releasing their new phone. But next week, a week from today, Amazon is having their hardware event. And this is where we're going to get to see, ideally, all the new updates to their smart home devices, most likely probably some new Ring stuff, they did have a new tablet that came out today, and maybe some surprises. Last year, I don't know if anybody remembers, that's when they had their little robot that will run around the house, and you could use it for basically like Zoom style calling. And so I'm hoping we get to see some kind of surprises like that'll come out. But that's a week from today, so pretty cool and exciting. At least it's for me. If you're a tech nerd, seeing what the new stuff is going to be. That's the robot from last year that they released. That it's you could maybe call it creepy a little bit. However, that's what they showcased. It has all kinds of like obstacle avoidance stuff on it too. I still don't know anybody that has it personally. But that was one, and it's just kind of one of those things where I want to see what kind of new stuff they're going to showcase, even if it doesn't become a product that everybody's going to pick up. Because I think this one had a waiting list to even try to get on it, or you had to be approved, just to see where the technology is going. And that is why I wanted to also bring up one other thing that I'm hoping we get to find out or see some more use cases for next week for this Amazon hardware event. So this is for anybody, if you've dabbled in smart homes at all, any kind of smart home device. If you're like me, and probably, you've tried this out, if you say you have an Amazon Echo device, but then you also get a good deal on a camera that's not a Ring camera, but camera from a different company. And then you have a light switch from another company. And then you have a smart bulb from another company. Well, getting all those things to work together can be a real pain, because a lot of times they either won't communicate with each other, or they're not on the same program, or even say you've got an Apple device. Well, your Apple device won't work with your Google Nest thermometer. All those issues are going to be going away. And that's because the entire industry has gotten together, and this has been developing over the last couple of years, to create something it's called Matter. And it's a software protocol. I'll make that real simple, though. It's a way that all the devices communicate with each other, and it means they're all going to be on the same wavelength. So you won't have to worry about if you've got one thing from one company, well, I can't use it with this company, can't use it with that. They're all going to talk to each other, and you'll be able to use all of them together. So you can pick the best product you like, and then combine that with something else that maybe you got a good deal on, and make it all work. And that's going to be pretty huge. And it's going to be coming out, supposedly rolling out later this fall. They've pushed that back a couple of times. All new devices, you're going to start seeing the Matter symbol on there, or most new devices. And it will even, or can even, depends on the company if they want to, update some of your older devices. So if you have a relatively newer device, it can probably be retrograded to this just with an over-the-air software update to where it'll start working with everything. This is going to be big, I think, for smart homes. I think it's going to be a huge.
Sounds great. I mean, Greg, let me ask you this, because sometimes in the past, there's been tools like that where, they're different languages and whatnot, and they're made to work, and they sort of work okay, but they don't work that efficiently, not smoothly. Do you think that this is going to be the case with Matter?
I think it is, because you have, I believe it's over 130 companies. All the major companies are in there, Google, Amazon, Apple, Philips, everybody kind of in that ecosystem are working together. And the reason I think it's going to work smooth, there could for sure be hiccups to start off, is that they want it because it's going to help them sell more products. And it's what consumers are demanding. So I think they're going to make this work.
Good.
Does it work right out of the gate? We'll have to wait and see. I'm sure there's going to be some issues. Well, this one doesn't quite work correctly, but in theory, it should be very simple. It should be as simple as opening up an app and being connect. And that's how things should be when it comes to smart homes. Because you're with devices, sometimes you're spending a good amount of money on these things. And then if
Mhm.
you have to use a separate app to use that one that won't work with that one, that's not what we want. That's not what people want who want to use smart homes.
That's not, yeah, people don't want that. Like I have old smart home equipment because one of my best friends, their family owns a smart home company. So and we sort of like guinea pigs, letting them first set everything up. And
Cool.
now like through the time we've been replacing a lot. I think it was like old like Cisco Control 4 stuff, which is
Yeah.
like was really expensive back then. But now like we're just replacing it with just really, off the shelf stuff that's working much more efficiently. But you're right. I think the before and after, and it's just gonna everything just evolves so much more quickly that
Yeah.
you don't want to be stuck with just one brand.
Yep. Completely. And it'll open it up too for maybe some more third party devices, something
Hmm.
that's some
Like
smaller
very niche,
manufacturer.
right? Hmm.
Yeah. That could create something really, really neat, and it'll have work on all the platforms. They don't have to develop one that works for Google or one for
Like our
Amazon, one
Pepper
for Apple.
robot, no?
Like Pepper the robot, yeah, or whatever other robot could come out there. It could work on all of that. You could be like Pepper, unload the dishwasher. That's my goal.
That's
Besides the lawn mowing robot, I want a dishwashing robot. That would be great. But yeah, I think it's just gonna really open it up for a lot of people. So this isn't something that's gonna be happening tomorrow, but definitely very soon. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's maybe a mention of it at the Amazon hardware event. Later on this fall, though, whenever it does roll out, you'll start seeing that everywhere. So that's just a little precursor here to understand what Matter is. And
so smart.
what
I
that's
think
gonna
I think you've talked about this on the show before, Greg,
I
about
probably
Matter.
have.
Yeah, because it
Yeah.
sounds really familiar, and I remember thinking that I'm like, that'd be so helpful. I mean, speaking of things that would be super helpful in that matter, would be like if iMessage worked with Android, like.
Yeah.
People, I think, like
Right.
devices, people, like not just inclusivity of people, but in technology too. We need
Yeah.
inclusivity in technology.
Yeah, I think there's one company you can look for that as why that hasn't happened yet. It's a name of a fruit, but that's more
They
of an
said they
Apple.
have. They said they have no interest. That's not a priority. That's what they made that announcement recently.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. They want you sticking on the Apple
Yeah.
iMessage, which, and since I'm an Android user, I'm still never gonna get whatever emojis you're posting, or it's just gonna come up as a blank spot on my phone. I can understand.
Oh, really? Is that what happened? So if I text
Yeah,
you,
you can't really see it.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Greg. I feel bad now.
Yeah, no, there's so many times I've been in conversations where it'll be like a multiple people texting and everybody's laughing at something, and except for the poor old Android user. I'm not in on the joke. Someone describe it for me.
That's funny.
Yeah, so that would be nice too. But even just anything, working together. So I think this is going to be pretty big for
Yeah.
all that. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I have for this week. Just some
Well,
little
amazing.
tidbits there.
Well, we're
What's
so
coming up.
glad you're back, Greg. We're so glad you're safe and you had an amazing trip. And of course, I did ask Greg, like, how was the food and what? Let me ask you this: what was the
Oh,
most
yes.
memorable meal you had on your trip? We need
Ooh,
details.
so I was really fortunate. Andy, my friend at Microsoft, who actually hired us to go over there, went to a 5-course meal where it's the chef's choice, which is the chef decides what each dish is. I
Mhm.
cannot remember what all the dishes were. We're supposed to get a list of them of what they were, but it was incredible. They would have like different wine pairings with each one of them. I know monkfish was one of the things that I tried, some different kinds of
Oh, the
beef.
monkfish
There
is
was
good.
monkfish is good. I had that twice while I was over there. That was my first time having monkfish, actually.
Really
Yeah, it was delicious.
big in Hawaii.
Yeah, I don't know how I've never had it before, or maybe I have and I just didn't remember. But I had it twice this time, so it worked
You
out.
made up for it.
I made up for it. Yeah, that was I would say probably a really memorable, one of the most memorable dinners I've probably ever had, just at this little French restaurant in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and pretty cool. Different wine pairings with it and everything. I've got a bunch of pictures of it, and I will post those once I find out what each picture is of. I ate it, but I don't remember what each one was, so I didn't want to share it and be like, I don't know what that is, but I tried it.
Well, let me ask you this, Greg. So while you were there, Queen Elizabeth passed away. How was that? Like, did you experience that there?
Yes, that was actually a really fascinating experience. So I had a couple of friends who were also in town, and that was the first day that I got there, and just randomly happened to be there. So we went out for a drink and some dinner, and we're kind of hanging out at an outside on a patio at this place, and you start seeing, there's a lot of tourists walking around, but then you just start noticing everybody's kind of looking at their phone. And there was a guy who ran over to one of my friends who didn't speak English, but was just like, look, showing the phone that the Queen had just passed away. And then you just start seeing everybody talking about it. There's a lot of British people there naturally, since it's so close, and just hearing all these conversations, no matter what the language was, they're all talking about the same thing. And it was it was an interesting thing just to see, people find out, but also just how communication spreads so quick, and people showing on their phones, and really interesting experience, I think, is the best I can say. Seeing how that all transpired just in person, and it was on every TV channel there till I left. I'm sure that was the same here.
Same here too. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I see Vicky, so now says Vicky is saying, Vicky, right, has King Charles now.
Yep. King Charles now. Yeah. As you're saying, it was history. I mean, it's a huge historical moment. But really, really kind of and I mean, I'm not going to say it wasn't a neat experience, because obviously, it's around at death, but it was seeing everybody talking about the same thing and being on the same page was a unique experience. Unique
experience. Well, we're glad you're home, Greg. I'm sure you're glad. I'm sure your dog's happy that you're home.
Dog is happy.
But this is great. We love to see the video and listen to footage. I love it. Well, we will definitely come back to you. I'm going to tell you right now, next week, I will not be here for In the Loop. I am on my own adventure. And then when I get back, I will share it with all of you when I get back. But in the meantime, we are so grateful to have you be a part of the show. And of course, Greg, we really, really missed you. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in today and joining me as we welcome Greg back. Then, Greg, I'll throw it to you.
Well, thank you very much. So good to be back. So good to be here with you, Whitney, and everybody watching. We love doing this show. Love interacting with everyone, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching afterward. Always feel free to reach out, send me anything you think is interesting. And I appreciate everybody who was doing that while I was out. And thanks for welcoming me back. And out next week, but then we'll be back, and can't wait to hear about Winnie's adventure. And I'm
gonna be here and local. I'll just say that much, but I just can't share with you just yet what it will be. So you'll have to tune in and come back so we can talk all about it.
That is a good teaser. That's a guarantee right there. So you'll want to tune back for that. So in the meantime, thanks everybody. Appreciate you all so much. And we will talk to you soon with another episode of The Loop.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.